Yeah, hello and welcome to the late night show. Very excited to be here and thank you for dialing in there. So really would be interested to see where you are all over the world, but this is more a one-directional communication unless we look at the questions here. But today I have something brought you something very special because I want to give you a very nice way of getting started with SAP Business Technology Platform. So especially if you don't really know what to do with that, how to do that, how to get started, that is where I want to help you today. We have a so-called jumpstart session. That means that I'm not the only active person, but you also need to become active, because in the end I've prepared an exercise, actually 4 small exercises for you, that you also get your own experience. And in this session I want to give you a jump start that you know how to do that and how to most efficiently and successfully complete those exercises. My name is Naeve, Naeve, a very typical German name, so typical that most Germans have never heard of that, but I grew up at the very north of Germany and that is slightly Scandinavian name, so that is a touch in that name. It's probably a global unique identifier. So to get started, I want to first of all give you a bit of introduction why that is so important and what in the end you're getting out, and then walk you a bit through the exercises that you're able to do that on your own later on after this short session. So with that, let me switch over to the introduction, and I want to very briefly introduce the topic to you. And with that, actually, I assume you've seen this picture. If this is not your first TechEd session right now, you've seen it probably in multiple sessions here. Our overall picture, the cloud core with the business technology platform. And we look today especially on the value this business technology platform can bring to you. So how do we do that? What are the details in order to bring that in? And therefore, let's very simple take one sample business process, order to cash. It could be anybody, but any process, but it could be anyone. So if we look at this process, it has multiple steps, typically also multiple use cases. In this case, first of all, you need to attract somebody, to create an offer for that person, sell something, your product to that person, and then fulfill your order, deliver the product or a service if that is, and in the end, hopefully then you're able to collect the money to generate your revenue. Those are best practices which you can buy, for example, or introduce with SAP system. S/4HANA, SuccessFactors, Ariba, Fieldglass, all those are products which help you to implement and you run your company according to these best practices. But best practices are not always good enough. So sometimes it makes a lot of sense for you to deviate at least in some elements from those best practices. It might be because you need some things to go faster, maybe you can simplify things, or it simply does not fit your business. And the last reason is not even on the slide, but I want you to think about it. How do we become a market leader? Well, actually, I believe you cannot become a market leader by just following best practices, because everybody could actually implement best practices. So you have to break out, you have to be better than best practices, at least in one regard. And that is actually where you need to tweak and adjust your process in that area which makes you so special, which differentiates you from your competition there. And that is where SAP's Business Technology Platform can help you, because that is really where you can adjust the process to your specific needs. And that is actually where you then, in the end, actually use the technology services, as we call them, combine that with the data sources and the applications and build up your specific use cases. And with the term use cases, I'm actually exactly where I wanted to end with this short introduction, because that is exactly the point. With SAP's Business Technology Platform, you need to build, or you want to build, some use cases which help your business to run better. And with that, let me switch over to the demo. And the demo is very simple, because then we basically go directly to the exercise. And for the exercise, also to be the easiest way probably to find the instructions is, I guess you're already on this page because you're watching the session right now. And here, when you click under Session Materials, you actually get to our GitHub page. And in the GitHub page, that is where I already have written down the exercises step by step. There are 4 exercises, and the first exercise is very simple: get to know the SAP Discovery Center. The SAP Discovery Center is a great source which showcases you around 200 use cases which can be built with SAP's Business Technology Platform, and gives you all further information how to implement that and how to move on. So this whole exercise notion typically uses all elements from this SAP Discovery Center. So therefore, in exercise number 1, we get to know the Discovery Center and learn how to use it in the best and efficient way. Exercise number 2 then later on is get started with SAP BTP. There we'll guide you through, really dig down into SAP BTP, do the basis. Working with enterprise accounts is something which nearly everybody needs to do, so therefore that's a good starting point to start there. And then after that, in exercise 3, I want to ask you to really go deeper, think about it yourself. What is a use case which helps you in your specific situation right now? Look at that and start that. And in the end, the last exercise is a very simple one: give feedback. So, now that you have an overview of all those exercises, let me quickly guide through that. As I said, the starting point is the SAP Discovery Center. URL, very simple: discovery-center.cloud.sap. You have the link directly here. You can Google it for you. I'm sure you'll find it. Once you find it, hello, you landed on SAP Discovery Center. You see a bit the space notion. So this is kind of also looking kind of at our development team, also ourselves. We try to embed this notion of, being out on a mission there, having a really specific mission in mind which you need to successfully fulfill. So therefore, this notion of a cockpit which you can also evaluate later on there. There are missions, there's a specific services around that, and we talk about our cosmos. The 3 key entities are missions, services, and very, very recently, because we just launched that for TechEd, the so-called reference architectures. But what are these? Missions are, very simple, use cases plus. I typically call them use cases plus. Already talked about how important use cases are. But the nice thing about those missions, we do not only tell you what you can do, we tell you in detail how to do that. Actually, in fact, we give you a step-by-step guidance, really guiding you through each individual step which you need to in order to implement that specific use case and also to tweak it to your specific needs. We show that in a second here. The other side, and that is kind of where I brought something here, Lego bricks. So for me, the BTP services are the Lego bricks. So each Lego brick represents one service. And I actually probably have the challenge there when I'm in IT. How can I combine those bricks, those services, in order to create further value? And therefore, that is where I have the services who integrate and extend to your solution, optimize your business process. That is where we have those technical capabilities. And the last element, the so-called reference architectures, which really help you to understand and differentiate the architecture patterns which actually help you in order to build those use cases and to run BTP in a combined environment. Yes, and with that introduction, it's actually time for the first 2 polls. As I told you, I'm not the only one who's getting active. I also want to become you to be active there. And therefore, let's get started. I have 2 questions for you. What are missions and what are services? So let's start with the first one. Missions are, I already see some good answers there. And no surprise. Actually, I'm very glad to see kind of there. Best episodes from Mission Impossible. Nobody thought about that. The vocation or calling of a religious organization there, that actually I directly took from Wikipedia. 1 vote for that. It's a true definition for mission. However, not in the sense as we are talking about it today. But of course, the best practices step-by-step guide is to implement the use cases, absolutely. And I'm really glad and happy to see that also 41% say it's fun to do. Very glad to see that. On the service side, also interesting build, a polite way to offer help. Nobody voted to that. A government system or private organization. We also have 1 vote for that, but originally, again, definition from Wikipedia, but of course, we talk about those services who enable and facilitate the applications or platform service of SAP BTP. And the last one, oh, at least someone, not only me, remembers the song Oh Susie from the band Secret Service. Well, thank you very much for those answers and for the interactivity. But with that, let's go back into the screen and have a deeper look into your exercise. Because your first exercise, you need to go into the mission catalog. And in the mission catalog, actually find the first mission, Get Started with Discovery Center missions. It's a mission we recommend. It's also a very popular mission, which you will also see later on. And you also find it in other elements. But this is the mission you actually need to start because that is the first mission. And when you click to that mission here, Get Started with SAP Discovery Center missions, first of all, you get a short description. That is not really a use case there, but it really helps you to better understand it. There is a step-by-step guidance, which guides you through the so-called project board here. And in order to get that now, you need to log in. You can use any SAP user you have. In case you don't have a user, I described on the GitHub page how to get one. Very simple there. But with that, if you have one, if you're lucky like me, single sign-on even works for that. And then actually with that, you start a mission. Starting a mission is absolutely free of costs. It's kind of no commitment, nothing on that side there. So it's very simple. It basically gives you free access to the content of that project board and all other information. And with the good advantages, because you see here, for example, I have already progressed nearly one third of the mission. So now we can also personalize it and adjust and tweak it to your specific needs. So you actually should then go step by step through that. You get here the description, what you do, you can move on to the next card, and so on. You find all this information. So for example, here, that is the card I haven't done here. I highly recommend to you, once you have completed one of those cards, click on Mark as complete, because that means you can track your progress. On that particular mission, that from my point of view is a very easy one. It's really just about Discovery Center. What is it about? Don't spend too much time about it. I'm pretty sure you find it very easy, and I hope you find it very easy. And if you don't probably need to read it all, just that you get a good starting point. But with that, after you got this impression on this mission now, actually I want to jump back and pull out the third poll, because I have another question for you. So maybe we can bring up the poll and get you active again. And it's basically a question on like, how easy do you perceive the first question to be? And so rate it from, yeah, it's not really kind of, could be more like that, but yeah, does it sound complex, or is it easy, maybe too easy, and so on. So just getting a bit of feeling there and so on. Okay, seems to be just right. So then let's not waste too much time here, because that was only exercise number 1, and we have 2 more exercises to go. So therefore, yeah, actually we now see some, get some, just right, easy. The majority thinks it's easy. Hopefully it's really so after you do that. So give me some feedback, really, if that is kind of what you traditionally perceive. If it was really that easy, I hope it will be for you. And it's also meant to be easy. Okay, good. After we've completed that mission, we go back to the mission catalog and actually use the second mission, which there's a second exercise. Get started with SAP BTP Enterprise accounts. And that now is a mission where you actually really need to dig into. And yes, I have started that before, so let me reload that. And that is really where you get started, find all the details, information about SAP BTP. So for example, you also learned about some basics about the Business Technology Platform, but also, and I think that's also very important to understand, what are the commercial models, the pricing models behind that, and so on. Because for sure, I mean, we're talking business. So yes, at one point in time, there's also something where you will be charged for. But you already see here there's a free tier model there, try to buy. There's also trial model. So actually here, so for example, in the next card, you also get all the information, what is behind the free tier model, how does it help me to actually execute my ideas, first of all, without any cost, so I can try it out in a proof of concept before I then later on use it productively. And with that, completing that mission, that would be exercise number 2. Now exercise number 3. For exercise number 3, basically you've now gained experience how to use the Discovery Center. You've done some basic steps on BTP. So now I want to think about your own situation for exercise number 3 and figure out, what might be a use case which might make sense in my environment for my specific company out there. And there are various ways of finding that specific use case and mission. One, and you've already played with that already, is look through the mission catalog. Maybe there are some good recommendations by SAP, and there was actually a nice blog also about, because especially for TechEd and for Sapphire also we really put some focus use cases out where we believe there are really hot topics right now. So there might be something very interesting for you also under recommended by SAP. Or maybe you want to go, well, what do other customers do? So actually we look here at the most popular ones. The top missions, the top use cases which have been implemented by others recently out there. Another very good idea from my point of view is also look into the try for free sections. So those missions are not only free to start, but also to run. So you can either run them in the trial or the free tier model, or it uses services which are free anyway. So that means you can really try it out, create your own proof of concept there, and really get down, really test it out, get your feedback before then you go into a live production or a live environment, where then you probably also be charged a bit. But you also know from the second exercise what is the charging scheme and the pricing behind that. Yes. Oh, okay. Ich habe gerade gehört I just heard that the GitHub link does not work. I'm actually really puzzled because I just tried it out here. Let me retry that. It seems to be working fine for me, so we'll be looking into that. So maybe somebody else can look in that in parallel, I hope. I'm not sure why that is not working. So in case it does not work, so we'll try to fix it in the background, and I propose that I simply move on here. Yes, and moving on means showing you further ways of finding the right mission for you and finding the right use case here. And one entry point is the use cases themselves. Another entry point could be the service catalog. And for the services, have again the picture of these Lego bricks and about things you can build with that. So here you find now all the detailed information. And I don't want to show too much to you because part of the exercise is browsing through that, understanding, figuring it out on your own. But I want to point your attention to the tab Related Missions. Because under related missions, you find use cases which have been built with that specific services, which might be a very good inspiration for you to actually follow that example, and might be a good idea to do that. Yes, and with that, actually, these are the key exercises 1, 2, and 3. The fourth exercise is very simple, because basically with the Discovery Center we want to help you as a customer or as a partner. But we can only help you best if we understand your needs. So therefore it's very crucial for us to understand what you need and get your feedback. And getting feedback is very easy. Again, in the Discovery Center we have here the option Give Feedback. And with that, so therefore, either there or another way of giving feedback, of course, now you know my name and the contact details are also very easy. I'm also happy if you contact me directly here, or there are other ways also to give feedback. But the last part of the exercise really is give feedback. With that, actually, already some people answered the question, the poll 4. Some people already asked it. If you haven't done that, sometime for the last question, sir. So after this session, after this introduction there, how do you feel? So some people feel the need to start right away, not to lose any momentum. Great, do that. The next one, actually more than half of them, need right now a beer, where I can easily relate to. Here in Germany, it's right now 9:30, so Friday 9:30, a good time for a beer. But also I'm very happy that also 40% feel empowered to start their next mission with the SAP Discovery Center. And that is exactly why I want to leave you, why the exercises are to really empower you. And with that, I think with the first part we are ready and can look at the questions you actually handed in.
Live Q&A.
Okay, now we are back with the question. See how many questions there are. So, first of all, I'm not sure if we still have the glitch with the GitHub there. We're testing that out in parallel. But let's figure that out. If that is the question, I'm sure we'll have that figured out soon. And then if you still get stuck, the GitHub link again is under the registration page for the specific session. Under session material, we'll make sure that the link is working there. So yes, there. So not sure if we have any questions here, but I see some questions here. Okay, so give me some time to quickly read to them. The first question, let me read that out to you. For trying BTP and the different mission, is it possible to use a free tier account? Or are there any missions that cannot be executed with the free tier model? A very good question, actually, I have to say, because that is, if you want to try something out, and actually the whole Discovery Center itself, that is completely for free. You saw you need a user, but besides that, we offer you the full content for free. But starting then the implementation, there are a couple of missions, and we have them. I think I very briefly showed that section, try for free. So under that sections, you find missions which you can run for free. Not all in free tier, but you actually see that when you start the mission. Some are also in a trial environment, or there's also a set of services which is free anyway, so some basic services. But those missions in the section try for free, that is where you won't be charged until basically, you go live and kind of reach the limit of the free tier limit there. But also, to be honest, not all missions are free tier. That's why we have that section that you can find them very easily. Okay. Good. Then the next question I see here. Can you share the community link where we can share, learn, give feedback on the Discovery Center? Yes, it's actually not a community link, so you can either reach out directly to me or, and that is a very easy way, use the Discovery Center itself. When you go into the Discovery Center on the upper right hand, and I'm not sure if we can still show the screen again, then I could show it again here. There we have here really the upper right hand, the first button you see here, that is the give feedback function. So that is where you can give directly feedback there. So that's a very easy direct way. Or otherwise, nis.boy.naeve@sap.com. Also very happy to receive your feedback here. Okay. Yes, besides that, I don't see any further questions right now. I'm not sure if there are more questions coming in. There's another question just coming in. Can we implement SAP DataSphere without having to use SAP BTP? That's an interesting question. Goes a bit beyond the scope of this session here right now. However, SAP BTP really offers a broad offering, basically enabling to you all you need to kind of go beyond our traditional best practices solutions, if you as we typically call them, like SuccessFactors, Ariba, Fieldglass, and so on. The SAP DataSphere actually is part of SAP BTP, so therefore the bit of part of definition. However, there are specific license models, and therefore, if you want to understand what SAP DataSphere is really and how does it relate to BTP and how you can use it, but also find out the pricing models there, then I can only recommend, again, the Discovery Center. Go into the service catalog there and look for SAP DataSphere. There you find all the details, and on the second tab, there's also all the pricing information there. So therefore, I somehow believe that that question is also related to the pricing. And with that, I think we don't have any further questions here. And I would very much like to thank you for all your questions and attendance. It was a pleasure having you here. So have a great rest of TechEd. I think there's one more session left.